In 2012, 2 families left the city along with the conveniences of modern American living. It's today that these 2 families have relocated themselves in the mountains of the American Ozarks to build for themselves a more sustainable and fulfilling lifestyle.
We are American Homestead!
This week on An American Homestead, we have a new solar dehydrator that Tim built this past winter. It's time to start using it. And after 7 months, our persimmon wine is finally ready to bottle and put up for aging and long-term storage. Thanks for watching, and be sure to visit us online at anamericanhomestead.com.
So what you see here right now are onions. These are some of the onions we're growing in the aquaponics. These are called, they have a variety of different names, but these are called sometimes walking onions or Egyptian walking onions or top-setting onions or treetop onions or tree onions. There's all kinds of names for them, but they're really all the same onion. And the reason a lot of times they call that is, number one, they grow really tall, and also they put their sets up at the top. And so these sets can be broken off, which we're going to do, and you can replant these sets in your grow beds. And then the onion at the bottom can be pulled up and used for food. And so the object of the plan here today is to go ahead and pull all of these onions up, take the sets off, put those inside of a little bucket here that I have to gather those for planting later. And then we're going to bring these onions into the kitchen where Jamie can cut them up and get them ready for our solar dehydrator. And once they're in the solar dehydrator, we'll be able to use these onions for long-term storage, for later on for soups and all kinds of other meals that we want to do, chilies down the road. And so these onions, very not mild by any means whatsoever. They're a very spicy onion, very hot onion, and I love the flavor a lot. Great flavor. And so great for chilies, all kinds of, some very spicy soups, things like that. Provides a lot of great flavor. And so we're going to save all these, pull them up, get the new sets planted, and then go into the kitchen and get these things chopped up ready for the dehydrator, which will give us long-term storage. Okay, I got all these sets out of these plants right here. These are going to be great for next year. Really easy to plant. You just pick them off and stick them back in the ground, and they come up within a year. So, I mean, all you got to do is plant these kind of plants one time, and you have onions for life. And so I've got a whole bunch of beds, you know, here and over there with these things. I even have a few of them out in the garden as well. And so we're going to have plenty of onions once I pull all these up. For a long time. Plus, we have next year's sets all ready to go in the ground, ready to pull up again next year. So, all right, let's get these things up and get them in the kitchen.
Look at these wonderful onions. Zach just pulled them out of our aquaponics, and they've been growing in there all winter. They've gotten huge, and he brought them to me to cut up, and I'm going to chop them, and we'll put them in our food dehydrator so that we'll have them available to use whenever we want.
Today I want to introduce to you our solar dehydrator. It was one of our winter projects that we made it, and now that spring and warmer weather's coming, we want to start using it. We kind of took a number of different plans and ideas and kind of put them in together for maybe a half a dozen different dehydrators. But some of the features that we have, some of them are a little experimental, may not work. Others may be just a great idea, and I'm glad I put it into the dehydrator. But to start with, let's look at the end where I have the sliding doors down in the bottom of the heat chamber. We just close and open the doors. And in the back end, we put in a concrete block in the floor of the dehydrator to absorb the heat during the day. And then if we have to leave food in there at night, we'll have some little bit of radiant heat coming into the dehydrator when it gets a little bit cooler. In the front of the dehydrator, I put in black sheet metal from our chicken house. And on the inside of the dehydrator, it's fully insulated. We have food grade plastic to lay our food on, and got that on the internet. The total cost of the dehydrator is maybe about $450, $500. I used almost all scrap lumber from various other projects and some reclaimed wood, even some pallet lumber for it. The majority of the cost went into making the trays for the dehydrator. The aluminum and the food grade plastic is a little bit pricey. I also put in a thermostat on the inside of the dehydrator, and so I can monitor the temperature of the inside without having to open the doors, because you lose so much heat when you open the doors. And I can monitor the thermostat right there to monitor the heat. Up in the top end, I have a couple of doors just to keep the rain out. I put in a fan that we can operate off our solar array that's next to our office. I just plug it into the office, and we get air circulating through the dehydrator. I have a capacity of 20 food trays. I have all of the trays in one side, and then I took out half of the trays on the other side. Now, with the insulation removed, we can generate more heat into the dehydrator coming straight through the metal. And if it gets too hot, we just put the insulation back on.
Wow, look at those great dried onions. I'm so glad we have this dehydrator this year. Some of you may know that we did some dehydrating on trays in the car last year, and it worked okay, but this year we are dehydrating in style. And I'm glad we have this dehydrator, because I'm planning to put it to use a lot as the produce from our garden comes in. I have 2 full quarts of dehydrated onions, and these will be great and very quick to use to put in chili, in soup, in any kind of stew. I could also rehydrate them in some boiling water. So I recently ran into a lady who told me that she preserves most of her garden by dehydrating her vegetables. And she even dehydrates things like green beans. She loves to have them for snacks. She'll just give the kids a dehydrated green beans for a snack. Maybe she'll put a little bit of salt and pepper or whatever on them, and they love them for a snack. If you've had kale chips, I imagine it might be something along the same idea. I'm really looking forward to dehydrating a lot of our vegetables this year. I think it might even actually be very time-saving, because canning can be a lot of work in the sun, and a lot of work in the sun over a hot fire. Whereas dehydrating, it seems to me it would be less work just because you have to cut up and process the vegetables anyway. You have to clean and cut up the vegetables either way. And then putting them on trays and letting the sun do the work to preserve them could be the way to go. So I'm going to experiment a lot more with dehydrating this summer now that we have our solar dehydrator and see how it goes. I will definitely be doing tomatoes. We did those last year. And I'm thinking maybe we'll bake some more kale chips, maybe we'll do some spinach, greens from the garden. Green beans, I definitely want to try that idea. I'm thinking carrots would be yummy too. So anything that I can, I feel like I can pretty much dehydrate and store in jars. Now, my friend who told me about her dehydrating, she said that she loves it because it takes up a lot less storage. If I had canned all of the onions that we picked, they would have filled at least 3, 4, 5, 6 times as many jars. I now have 2 jars of dehydrated onions to put in my pantry, and that's it. I'm already running out of room in my pantry. So I can see how dehydrating is going to be a really good thing, maybe for time saving, for not working over a hot fire, and for saving room in my pantry. So all of those things I'm really looking forward to experimenting with this summer.
Okay, so last fall, we decided to go ahead and start the process of turning some of our persimmons that we harvested into wine. We have several hundred persimmon trees on the property and decided to go ahead and start harvesting those and using the process of winemaking to preserve that fruit. A long time ago, people had usually one of 2 options to do when it came to harvesting fruit. You could dry it and save it for storage that way, or you could ferment it and save it for storage that way. But really, you had those 2 options. There was no such thing as refrigeration, no such thing as vacuum-packed sealed bottles. So really, those were your 2 options when you wanted to save fruit or the juice of a fruit for long-term storage. And we decided to go ahead and try our hand at winemaking, our first time ever doing it. We have an abundance of persimmon trees here on the property. And so we decided that was probably the best avenue to go down. So I want to walk you through that process now. If you missed some of the other videos where we harvested these persimmons, you can check them out on the right over here and see how we started the whole process. But the process finally has been complete. And so we're going to go ahead and start right now. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is go through all of our items, all of our equipment, so you can see exactly what I'm using. And so this will give you an idea of things you may need to use too when you go ahead and try this same process. So starting over on this side, this is called a bottle tree. And you take the bottles, once you've rinsed them, you're going to place them on the bottle tree, and it allows them to drain down into here, and just allows the bottles to drain once you've rinsed them. Very simple concept. And so you can get these online a number of places, but they come in handy when you're doing a large quantity of wine. You're going to have many, many bottles, and so you're going to be rinsing lots of bottles, and you're going to be keeping things clean, because cleanliness is paramount when you're making wine. And so you're going to have lots of bottles, and they make these stands taller. You can get additions to them if you're going to do even more. This, I believe, will hold about 60 or 50 bottles, something like that. So next thing is we have our corker. So you place the cork into here and push down, and it sets the cork inside the bottle. We'll need that later. This is our sanitizing solution. This is the only chemical I use during the entire process of making wine. Wine is made with a lot of chemicals, especially starting from the vineyard with the pesticides and insecticides and fertilizers. But this is the only chemical that I use in the process. And I use one called Star Sand because there was a lot of people out there who recommended this as being something very useful and helpful. So I went ahead and got this. Use just a very tiny amount of this, and it creates enough suds, and it's basically an acid that's going to coat the inside of the bottles and make sure there's absolutely no bacteria, and that will allow you to keep this for long-term storage if you want to. It'd be nothing worse than opening up a bottle of this
6 months down the road and finding out that it went bad inside the bottle. So you don't want that to happen. That's the only chemical I use in my process. A funnel comes in handy for a lot of things. We're going to be moving some liquid here about. Also, corks. So I've got corks, and they're soaking right now in hot water. These will be the corks we use for the bottles. And then we have this thing called the Clean Bottle Express, and it goes inside of a drill. And so basically, what you're going to do with this, when you initially clean your bottles, you just stick them in there. You're going to stick some soapy water in there with them, put them in the bottle, spin it around, and it's going to be an easy way to clean your bottles. You want to make sure everything is clean. Cleanliness is the most important part of this entire process. Before you start, everything needs to be clean. Now, a lot of times people will use Candem tablets and all kinds of other chemicals to clean their equipment. What I do for the most part is just use boiling water. Boiling water will kill 99.9% of anything harmful that's going to kill or that's going to affect your wine. And so this here is an auto siphon that we have. You can buy this at any Walmart for just a couple of dollars. And earlier today, I just ran boiling water through it. So one of the best ways you can purify everything is just run boiling water through everything. And so we're going to run hot water through the bottles, and we're going to clean them with the drill and the brush. And then the last step we'll do is go ahead and sanitize it with this, place it on the tree, and then when it's done draining, we'll go ahead and transfer the wine into the bottles. But everything needs to be treated with hot water. Anything the wine is going to touch, boiling water will kill the germs that could affect your wine, and that's really important. Again, also even the corks are sitting in hot water. Okay, so the last thing is the wine. The wine is ready to go into the bottles. We've been basically fermenting this wine for at least since last November, October, when we first made the videos of harvesting all the persimmons and getting them turned into juice, and then going ahead and fermenting them over and over and racking them over and over into different containers along the way. And so it's been a long process, and just last week I think it stopped bubbling. And so it's done bubbling now. It's ready to go into its final containers to be used for long-term storage. So I think we're really looking forward to this finally wrapping this all up. But again, it took a long time. We don't have constant temperatures here, and so it gets cold at night, and we have the wood stove in the wintertime, and so it's just, we don't have a constant temperature like most households have, and so it takes longer for the fermentation process to be complete. Because in a constant temperature state, the yeast will continue to work straight through, and here they slow down, they start up, they slow down, they speed up, and so it's just this constant battle with the yeast to finish the fermentation of the wine. Anyway, it's ready to go. So let's go ahead and begin the process. Okay, so we've got all of our wine bottles cleaned and sanitized, and they're hanging on the bottle tree. We're going to let these dry for a few minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and get the wine inside the bottles. Now, all of our bottles that you see here, these are reused bottles. You can absolutely reuse bottles that you've had before from wine. We always save our old wine bottles. The one thing you got to remember that's very important to keep in mind is to make sure you use bottles only with corks in them. You cannot use bottles, or you shouldn't use bottles that have screw tops because they won't work for long-term storage. If you want to keep wine maybe for a few weeks, it may be okay, or maybe even a few months, but you're risking it at that point. What you want to do is, if you want to keep wine for long-term storage, make sure you have wine bottles that take a cork and not a screw cap, because you can use those bottles over and over again. You just have to get new corks for them. So we go ahead and save all of our own wine bottles. We have so much wine that we have to bottle up still, that we're going to have to order new bottles because we just don't have enough bottles. But we still have a 6-gallon carboy full of wine ready to go. But right now, today, we're just going to do a gallon of wine with these 5 bottles. Well, hey guys, it's been a long process in starting this whole thing. We started back in October of last year, 2014. And I got something wrong on the bottle. It's supposed to be the actual day the year you harvested, and we actually harvested these in 2014. So I got that wrong on the bottle. But hey, I'm a beginner, so I can make mistakes, right? So we started in October, harvested all the persimmons. There's some videos out there about that you can find on our channel of making the wine, and the process we went through. And it turned out really, really well. It's been a long process. It's just now being bottled today, and it's middle of May. So a good 6 months at least, on working with this thing. 7-8 months of fermentation, the fermentation process finally being completed, and so it's been a long journey. And we learned a lot, and we made some mistakes, but this has been a great success. This tastes wonderful. Me and my wife love different wines, and we love dry wines. We love pairing different wines with different foods, and so we know when we taste a good wine, and this is a good wine. I would be very happy with this, and I would be very happy with bottling a lot of this. And so going forward, I think in the next coming months and years, I think we're going to try. We produced about 35 bottles this year of this wine, so 35 bottles. And I think we're going to try for about 120 bottles. That's going to be my goal I shoot for next year is 120 bottles of wine, persimmon wine, for the homestead. Now, I can't sell my bottles on the open market. That's illegal. I can't do that. But what I can do, perhaps, is go ahead and harvest my persimmons and go to some of the local wineries that are in the region here, because there's a few that are just nearby, and sell them my persimmons or sell them my blackberries, and they can make it under their label, under their license, their federal license. I can't do that. I don't have a federal license to be able to make this type of product and put it on for sale in the open market. All I can do is go ahead and make it for my own consumption. We had a lot of successes along the way. We had some failures. When I was bottling this, I had some problems. This tool, I got this from Midwest Brewing Supplies, and for some reason, every time I used this, it would slip off, and the cork would end up being about halfway or a fourth of the way up. I couldn't get it in the bottle. I had to really barrel down on this thing to get it down in there. And even when I finally got it down in there, I had to go through a couple corks even. I had to get some extra corks and get those soaked in to get them ready to be in there. So I had to even prepare some extra corks. But it left a huge indentation on the bottle top, and I don't like that at all. It's just doesn't look professional. I don't know. I'm not happy with this thing. And, I guess it would be great if you had maybe a dozen bottles you had to do and you really didn't care so much about how the looks of them were on top. But I kind of want to make a nice product, because a lot of these bottles, believe it or not, are going to go out as gifts to friends and family and things like that. So I want to make a nice product so that I can give a nice gift. And this thing just was kind of a pain. So if I'm going to be doing 120 bottles next year, which is kind of where I'm shooting for, I'm going to need something else. So I'm going to kind of, look around and see what other options are. If you know of an option, maybe leave it in the comments below. But this just did not cut it. Midwest Brewing Supplies, I'm going to, maybe I'll send them this video and say, they sent this to me. They just threw it in a box and didn't even send any instructions with it. So no warnings. It's got this adjustable nut up here that you can adjust it with. And they didn't even give any instructions on how that works or what it means or anything. I had to kind of figure it out myself, and it was just kind of frustrating. And the first few bottles were kind of hard to get finished. Anyway, this persimmon wine turned out really well. We're very happy, very excited about how it turned out. And we're going to go ahead. We're excited to be able to produce more of it in the years to come. So maybe one day, if you ever get the chance we can meet and we can do it in an environment where we can, enjoy some of this product, I'll be able to share it with you, and you'll be able to try it yourself. So, all right, turned out really well. An American Homestead wine, our first vintage ever. Turned out great.
Thanks for watching. We really appreciate everyone tuning in each week. If you like our videos, go ahead and share them on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you next time on the Homestead. Okay, so here you go. You can pick the glass up. I just want to get a shot of you drinking. Go ahead. Going really slow.
Drink it, drink it. Can't use that footage.
Yeah, I won't use that footage.
Look at my mom trying.